California, officially entering the fight, entering the chat over redistricting at the same time that Texas Democrats are now signaling.
What if I told you that California, the fifth largest economy in the world, is about to be torn apart? Not by an earthquake, but by something far more dangerous, political desperation. Right now, as you're watching this video, a secret plan is unfolding that could split California into two separate states, destroy decades of voting rights, and hand unprecedented power to whoever controls the narrative. This isn't science fiction. This is happening now. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this crisis could determine the future of American democracy itself. But first, we need to talk about what Governor Gavin Newsom is hiding. Behind closed doors in Sacramento, California's most powerful politician is having a complete meltdown. Governor Gavin Newsom, the man who survived a recall election and dreams of the White House, just made the biggest political miscalculation of his career. Here's what the mainstream media isn't telling you. Newsom's master plan to redraw California's congressional maps, called Proposition 50, is crashing and burning. The same voters who kept him in office are now rejecting his desperate power grab. But this story gets darker. While Newsom was plotting to eliminate Republican districts and hand Democrats 5 guaranteed House seats, something unexpected happened. Trump's popularity surged, Republican states started their own redistricting, and suddenly Democrats realized they were playing a losing game. Texas already passed new maps. Iowa's considering changes. Utah and Indiana are following suit. The Republican states aren't just responding, they're winning the redistricting war before it even started. That's when California Republicans dropped a political nuclear bomb, the two-state solution. Picture this, California split vertically. The west side, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, keeping 3/4 of the population. The east side, Central Valley, Sierra Nevada, rural counties, becoming its own state with 10 million Americans who feel completely abandoned. Here's where it gets insane. Remember when Texas threatened to secede? Everyone laughed. But California actually splitting? That's constitutionally possible. Article 4, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution allows it. All you need is state legislative approval and a vote. And here's the kicker that's terrifying Democrats. If California splits, it doesn't just mean 2 states instead of 1. It means 4 senators instead of 2. And that Eastern California? It would be deep red, Republican. Suddenly, Newsom's gerrymandering scheme didn't just backfire. It triggered a constitutional crisis that could permanently alter the balance of American political power. The California Supreme Court is now being asked to block Proposition 50 entirely. Republicans are calling it a fight to preserve democracy. But what they're really fighting is something much bigger. See, this isn't really about congressional maps. This is about 2028. This is about Gavin Newsom's presidential ambitions colliding with political reality in the most spectacular way possible. Newsom's term ends in January 2027. He's already eyeing the White House. His entire political brand is built on being the progressive hero who outsmarts Republicans. But what happens when your master plan proves you're not as smart as you think? Sources say Newsom is snapping on social media, frantically posting, doing podcasts anywhere that will have him. The confident governor who defeated the recall is now begging California voters to trust him with something they clearly don't want. New polling shows a majority of Californians oppose Proposition 50. Even Democrats are saying, we don't want to abolish the Independent Redistricting Commission. The very people Newsom needs for his presidential run are abandoning him. Conservative commentator Charlie Kirk nailed it. Newsom has insane political ambition, but he's realizing his political days are numbered. This isn't just about California anymore, this is about a politician watching his future presidency slip away. Meanwhile, Trump is getting things done. His approval is rising. Republican states are consolidating power. And Newsom? He's facing the humiliation of a failed ballot measure that he spent millions promoting. But here's what nobody saw coming. The dirty secret of American politics is that Democrats already played the gerrymandering game, and they're losing because they played it too early. Here's the math that's giving Democratic strategists nightmares. Democrats have already gerrymandered most of the states they control. New York, Illinois, Maryland. They squeezed every possible seat out years ago. Republicans, they held back. Texas just gained seats. Florida's been conservative with their maps. Iowa, Utah, Indiana, they have room to grow. The GOP was playing chess while Democrats played checkers. NBC's Steve Kornacki broke down the numbers, and they're devastating for Democrats. In 2018, Republicans held 25 districts that Hillary Clinton had won. Today, only 3 Republicans represent districts Trump didn't carry. Republicans are bulletproof in most of their districts now, while Democrats are sitting ducks in competitive areas. The party that was supposed to benefit from demographic changes is now mathematically disadvantaged. Let me tell you something from covering politics for years. When you see a politician like Newsom this desperate, this frantic, it's because they know something the public doesn't. They've run the numbers. They've seen the internal polls. And they're terrified. This isn't about democracy or fairness. This is about Democrats realizing they're about to lose the House permanently, not just in 2026, but potentially for a decade or more. Think about the timeline. Trump wins in 2024. Republican states redistrict successfully. 2026 midterms typically favor the opposition party, but Republicans are sitting pretty in safe districts while Democrats are exposed. So Newsom tries his Hail Mary pass with Proposition 50. Suspend the independent commission California voters approved in 2010. Draw partisan maps that flip 5 red districts blue. Save the Democratic Party single-handedly. But here's the constitutional crisis nobody's talking about. California voters specifically amended their state constitution to create this independent commission. Newsom is asking them to undo their own constitutional choice. State Republicans led by James Gallagher aren't just fighting gerrymandering. They're fighting for the constitutional principle that voters, not politicians, should draw districts. And the rural-urban divide in California isn't just about politics. It's about water rights, fuel costs, firefighting resources, the battle between ranchers and environmentalists. These aren't abstract political issues. They're life and death for millions of Californians. The two-state solution isn't just political theater. Eastern California would have 10 million people, larger than most existing states. They'd get 2 senators, multiple House seats, electoral votes in presidential elections. Imagine the shock in Washington if 2 new Republican senators from East California showed up. The entire balance of the Senate could flip permanently. And here's the part that should terrify Democrats. Trump already hinted he might sue the Newsom administration. The former president who just won the 2024 election is paying attention to California. This fight just went national. The California Supreme Court now has to decide whether to allow a ballot measure that could trigger a constitutional crisis, a state split, and a complete reshuffling of American political power. We're less than 2 months from the November 4th special election. If Proposition 50 fails, Newsom's presidential ambitions die. If it passes and triggers the two-state movement, American politics changes forever. But there's something else happening here that goes beyond politics. This is about trust in democratic institutions. When politicians try to change the rules mid-game, voters notice. Every poll shows Americans' trust in government at historic lows. Newsom's power grab isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening when people already believe the system is rigged. Social media is exploding with California voters saying they feel betrayed. They voted for an independent commission to stop partisan gerrymandering. Now their own governor wants to throw that away for political convenience. This is the moment when political ambition meets constitutional democracy, when one man's presidential dreams collide with 40 million people's right to fair representation. And in less than 60 days, we'll know whether American democracy survived the test, or whether we're watching the beginning of something much more dangerous. Because if California can split over politics, what's stopping other states? Here's what foreign policy experts are quietly discussing in Washington. American political instability is becoming a national security issue. China, Russia, Iran, they're watching this California crisis with intense interest. Because if America starts splitting states over political disagreements, how stable is our democracy really? California isn't just any state. It's the world's 5th largest economy. If it splits, what happens to Silicon Valley? Hollywood? The agricultural Central Valley that feeds America? The global economy depends on California stability. Apple, Google, Facebook, they're based in a state that might literally be divided by politics. International investors are starting to ask hard questions. And here's the constitutional nightmare. What if other states follow California's example? What if Texas decides to split into 5 states, as its 1845 annexation agreement technically allows? Texas could become 5 Republican states with 10 senators instead of 2. California could become 2 states with 4 senators. The entire structure of American federalism could unravel in a single election cycle. We've seen this movie before. Not since the Civil War has America faced the possibility of states literally reshaping themselves for political advantage. I've covered politics for years and I've never seen anything like this. We're not just talking about normal political hardball. We're talking about the fundamental structure of American government being rewritten in real time. While political violence, like the assassination of Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University, threatens the very foundation of democratic discourse. And the scariest part? Most Americans have no idea this is happening. While everyone's focused on Trump, Ukraine, and the economy, the basic structure of our democracy is being challenged in California courtrooms. This affects everyone under 40 differently than older Americans. If you're young, you could be living with the consequences of this California crisis for the next 50 years. Think about 2028. If California splits and creates a new Republican state, the electoral map changes forever. If Proposition 50 passes and Democrats gain House seats, Republicans might need to split Texas or Florida in response. This isn't just about California anymore. This is about whether America can maintain political stability when both parties are willing to break constitutional norms to win. Our allies are watching. NATO depends on American stability. The global economy depends on predictable American institutions. If we can't keep our own states from splitting over politics, how can we lead the free world? Major corporations are already making contingency plans. If California splits, do you base your headquarters in coastal California or Eastern California? Do you lobby two state governments instead of one? But forget the big picture for a moment. This is about real families. Parents in Fresno who might end up in a different state than their kids in San Francisco. Businesses that operate across what could become a state border. The water wars between Northern and Southern California are complicated enough with one state government. Imagine negotiating water rights between two separate states with their own senators and congressional delegations. We're watching the potential collapse of the longest-running democratic experiment in human history. Not because of foreign invasion or economic catastrophe, but because politicians chose power over principles. November 4th isn't just a California special election anymore. It's a referendum on whether American democracy can survive political desperation. Every California voter who walks into a polling booth is answering a question. Do you trust politicians to redraw democracy, or do you trust independent commissions that you voted for? This is bigger than Newsom, bigger than Trump, bigger than partisan politics. This is about whether we still believe in the rules that hold America together. And in 30 days, we'll have our answer. But here's what I know for certain. This story isn't ending on November 4th. Whether Proposition 50 passes or fails, the constitutional precedent has been set. The box has been opened. This isn't just about California. It's about what happens when power forgets people. What happens next may shock you. The constitutional crisis we just explained? It's only the beginning. Like and subscribe if you want Part 2 covering what happens when Texas, Florida, and other states start playing the same game. Comment below. Do you think California will actually split? And if you think this is just about redistricting, wait until you see what we've uncovered about the 2028 presidential election. The next video will blow your mind.